Howdy, howdy, fellow YouTubers. Mr. Z Bunch Numbers here with a Hot Wheels Resto-mod update. What you're staring at is a Warpath, which is the car I bought a while ago from the flea market for 50 cents. Now, obviously, this isn't the exact one I bought, because the one I bought for 50 cents was trashed. The one I had, the paint was all worn off of it. You could barely see these decals that were on it. The windshield was cracked, the wheels were all beat to death, and basically it was a total piece of junk that really most people probably would just throw away because there weren't any good usable parts on it aside from maybe the base, but even the base had some kind of dings in it and dents in it, so wasn't exactly what you would call salvageable. And what that led me to do was Resto-mod it, which means you restore it, but you modify it at the same time away from what it originally was. Now, since I'm not a huge customizer yet, I don't have all the tools to do things like make my own pieces or use clay to kinda form and shape everything so it looks 100% right, but I did a little bit of experimenting with it, and I started off with this as a base. Now, originally the Warpath was also known as the AMX-2. Now, the AMX-2 is also a car that I have in my collection, and this is what the AMX-2 looks like. There's not a whole lot of difference between the AMX-2 and the Warpath other than the change in design from being obviously a Redline with the cap style wheels, that's where these caps come off and you're still left with a hub that they slide onto, but they changed it from a cap style wheel and a metal interior insert that keeps the wheels or the axles from bending as much, and it's got a little bit more of a spring obviously like a Redline would have. And it's got a very nice look to it with this really deep purple color. Now this will look blue on camera, but it's actually a really nice deep purple. And then I'll show you the Resto-mod that I did. But before I do that, I want to show you what I did with the wheels off of that AMX or Warpath This is the 61 Impala. I used the beater Redline wheels off of the Warpath to create a junkyard dog restoration style looking thing of the 61 Impala. I don't know about you guys, the windows were an experiment that really didn't work, so it looks like junk as far as the windows go, but the paint and body turned out pretty much the way I had anticipated, just giving it the grunge look. And then the base, I used a Dremel to kinda get rid of the logoing and stuff like that on there. Might go back and redetail it later, but I used the old school wheels on it to give it that junkyard dog look. So it looks pretty fairly nice with those old school wheels on it. Really cool junkyard car. And then finally, the long anticipated Resto-mod of the Warpath. Check that out. That's right, I was a little bit cheap on this one. I didn't really go out and buy any paint for it. I just figured, yeah, let's just see what I can do on a nonsense scale and put a bunch of stuff on it and not really spend any money on it because I don't really want to waste any money right now. So yeah, what I did is I took Sharpie and then I used some nail fixer or epoxy type stuff, and I kind of put it over the windshield to keep it from cracking off the rest of the way. Because as you can see here, there's a crack that goes this way and then comes back out. So I used like a kind of a nail fixer for like when you're getting your nails done or whatever. It's not mine. It was my mom's, but she didn't mind. So I used that and put it over the windshield to keep it from cracking the rest of the way. And it's like an instant hardening epoxy, and that way it keeps the windshield sealed together. And then I used some of the kind of instant dry super glue, or I'm trying to think of the word it is, but I can't think of it right offhand. But there's a really strong and powerful holding glue that dries pretty quickly. Oh, it's Loctite. There we go. I used some Loctite glue after doing some filing and some modifications to this back piece and glued it on. And yeah, pretty much from there it was smooth sailing. Obviously I had to use the paint remover to get all the paint off, sanded it up, use the Sharpie marker to give yourself a little bit of a kind of a Ford GT style stripe on the hood. I'll show you like this, see? Got like the Ford GT style stripe on the hood. I didn't continue it going into the back of the car, I just wanted to have a solid black roof. Thought it made it look a little bit more mean. And then I used some nice open hole 5-spoke rims, although you can't see all the way through to the other side, which is one feature of the Warpath that is a little bit different. The interior piece also goes all the way back to this back, but since I put this engine on it, I had to cut off the back half of the interior, which meant I had to take and put kind of like a piece of paper. Then I used some quick drying epoxy to make a makeshift kind of support that keeps the axle where it's supposed to be, since I cut off the back half of the interior to put this on. And then I also cut off the little support bar that goes in between the rear window to get this so I could put it in there. And then though this engine piece actually came off of, let's see if you guys can guess it. I'll give you a couple seconds to look at it and see if you recognize where it comes from. But anyways, I got the wheels and this engine piece from a particular car. See if any of you can think about it for a second. And, well, if you haven't guessed it, and you probably haven't and won't guess, is this engine piece actually came off of a Danicar. Way to take a peg warmer and turn it into a parts donor. And it had the correct front and rear size wheels on it. It has 3 sets of wheels on it as far as coming from the factory, but I only used 2 and used the other or kept the other wheels as donors to a future vehicle custom that I do. So yep, used a Danicar peg warmer to create this Resto-mod of the Warpath. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my overly extended talk about this awesome custom. And now, just for the fun of it, if I can get my screwdriver out here, I'll show you that I actually did get this base put on right. It's got a screw. It's been drilled and tapped. So what I'm going to do is, let me see if I can take it apart for y'all, just to show you the interior and what I was talking about as far as the axles, to hold the axles in place. Now it's a little bit harder to get apart. See if I can get it apart without killing it. Here we go. Pull it apart, and if you look closely, you can see there's the piece of paper that I used. Put some tape as well as some of that quick drying epoxy to put it back together. And then there's the interior piece. And if you look closely, you'll see where I cut it off here. Didn't really do a lot of detail working on it. And then, yeah, pretty much used some paper with some Sharpie to fill up the holes that were on the side, so when you look down on it, you don't see through the body, you just see that black spot where the paper is. And then I used a little bit more of the quick dry glue to glue that paper in place. So it's a little bit of a redneck custom, but I don't mind it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to comment. Let me know what you think. Peace until my next update.